if some of the families going through cancer that where they can stay. And so we actually cooked a meal for the families. And one of the guys on the team was great with cooking lasagna. So we, as a team, all divided and conquered, and then, gave that to the family there and the other various families in the waiting room, where they just, sit and wait if they're coming in from out of town, because like University of Kansas, there's multiple areas that they pull throughout our Midwest geography. And so they need a place to stay. So I would say something like that was, it was fun, but also really rewarding, because we were doing something for the patients and their families. And of course, that's what we're in the pharmaceutical business for, is putting patients first and foremost. So that was one, it's probably 2016, 2017 we did that. So that's one that really resonates with me.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Very nice.
We did a songwriting competition in Nashville. We went to a recording studio and had two groups create a song. They had two songwriters there, and they provided the music and we provided the lyrics, and then we had to sing them for the other group. And you talk about bonding and having a good time. Our sales VP earned a new nickname out of that, and I don't think it's left him to this day. So, but those kind of things where you stretch yourself out of anybody's comfort zone, that's unique and different, people really gravitate to that kind of thing, and it does help open people up, and you see people in a whole new light. It's pretty cool.
I was actually, ironically, at that event because I happened, to be there, and yeah, they brought me in to do some other, skill building workshop.
One of the best.
And they invited me to this team building at night. I'm like, what on earth are we doing?
Right.
But I will say,
out of your comfort zone, correct?
Completely out of my comfort zone. I had to stand there and sing with like these group of people, half of which I met for the first time. But it was actually pretty cool. It was pretty cool, I have to say.
That was one of the more bonding experiences I think I've ever had. Pretty neat.
Yeah, it was pretty neat. So, Jim, apparently you wanted to talk about the worst.
Am I always like, and I'm actually in a really good mood today. It was a great day in Philadelphia sports yesterday. So I'm like really on a good vibe here, but I'm listening to you guys. I'm thinking, my God, I am like a not creative manager, because about the most creative thing that we did was an axe throwing, at one of these like urban axes. That was a lot of fun. Thank God nobody got hurt. And we got to see some pieces of people's personalities that you probably wouldn't have seen otherwise. What stemmed my comment about and not to say it was the worst, but so I recently was at all managers meeting, and the person that decided to run that meeting had a beach Olympics with a bunch of like, middle-aged, not necessarily in best shape, people, and it got a little competitive, and like it was not a good, like one of the guys actually tore his ACL, and
my goodness.
He was out for 2 months, and because a lot of us were joking going in and like, oh yeah, it's gonna be going back, and then we got out to the beach and we realized some of these events were like actually like I don't know if I would have done them when I was 20, and we probably should have not done them. So I throw it out not to be like a downer, but like just to think through these things, like and there was a series of calls after that meeting about like, oh, what are we going to do as a team builder? And so, yeah, anyway.
So I think it's a great point. I think you do have to be careful when you're planning these team events, right? That they're appropriate, that, you kind of do have to look at all of some of the, the pitfalls that you might run into with these. And Jim, to your point, I'm not creative either. But this is where Tracy, you kind of started this before as one of the best practices. You kind of leverage, people on your team. And I always leveraged people on my team to help plan, pick location, as well as any type of team building. My very first meeting that I put together was at like I was a brand new manager. I never put a meeting together, right? So I just put together a hotel at like the airport, And it was like just kind of like run down and, the type of like setting where it definitely needed updating. You can kind of see like, the coffee stains on the meeting floor. And I always ask for feedback. And yeah, I certainly got feedback after that meeting, that was for sure. And never again did I ever plan a team meeting location wise. So I always allowed my team to help me with that.
I think, let's see, dinner location, like food and hotel accommodations, those are always also part of top of the list of importance of making it successful. I think too. Food has a big part of it.
I agree.
Yeah.
It is amazing how good hotels change the dynamic of a meeting.
Yes.
Like, oh, I'm excited to go to this place. That it really does set the tone in a lot of ways to say, hey, I'm thinking of you guys, care about where we're going to land and what we're going to eat and what we're going to do. And I think that's the other part of it from my view of meetings is demonstrating that I care too.
Mhm.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I have heard, critics over the years say, well, it doesn't matter where you have your meeting. I mean, we're buying their food, paying their hotel bills. But to your point, Kevin, it does matter because it's sending a message to your people. And I'm so glad you said that. I completely agree wholeheartedly. And that's the lesson I learned the hard way with my first meeting. So, Jim?
So I was just gonna say, I would actually like to, pursue this a little more. I agree with Kevin. I think that, just doing it at the Holiday Inn or, that's going to, people are gonna be like, oh my God, but I've run into a couple of the organizations I've been at. They actually, I don't want to say prohibited, but it was really hard to do a nicer hotel. Like I had a situation at one of the organizations where I was able to get a deal on like a Ritz-Carlton. And it was like the price of a regular Marriott. And I had to, like, we were able to get it approved, but they were like, why are we doing this at the Ritz-Carlton? It's going to happen in the Wall Street, all these sort of like questions. Have you guys run into that issues with your organization? And like, how do you kind of manage through that? And I'm actually just, the other thing, I'm coming off a budget call where like we had a really pretty tight budget this year and, getting creative, trying to do something nice, but without, spending $500 a night on a hotel room.
We just have a budget with ours because I'm in the process of that right now, Jim. So, and there is that fine line. We're having it at a Hilton, but I think that's where you can elevate with some of the food and the dinner and the snacks during the session and things like that, because, there is that budget that we have to stay within guidelines and compliance for. But I think there's also other ways that we can do things. One thing that I like to do, and it's like when somebody gets a hotel, I like to leave like a goodie bag or something from the city that they're in, whether it be, a magnet or something from wherever, Nashville, a little guitar magnet or whatever, and then just welcome to the city and really looking forward to a great meeting. And just, now it would probably be sanitizer, but little snacks or things for when they get to the room. And I think that sends a nice way to really start it off, that you took the time, like you were saying, Kevin, that you care and you want it to be an enjoyable experience. So I found that that's something, whether it be national sales meeting out of town or a division meeting, that really goes a long way with the team.
I think, Jim, there's times where you can fight for those things if you need to, right? I think, not every meeting can you raise hell about not getting what you want as far as a hotel or food or budget. But there are times when you just have to fight for those things because it's what your team needs right then and there. I've seen leaders go out of their way. Rich, you and I work for this person, to put a meeting together where you're sitting in a recliner the entire meeting because that team did so well. But you know what? He fought like hell for it, and you felt very special just to be part of that group. And I never forgot that lesson. So it's something I try and make sure that, hey, this group is special. Every group I have is special, and you have to understand that no matter the budget, how can I demonstrate that to you?
Little things matter.
Rich?
That making them feel special, or just recognizing their hard work and achievements is so important. I think it sets the tone too for the meeting. You definitely don't want it. you don't want them going to the meeting already, kind of dreading it, right? You want them looking forward to it in any aspect that you can. And just if it's a budgetary issue, I mean, there's ways that I've been able to kind of get around things, whether I bundle it with maybe a less expensive meal, or try to pick a town or a city that's maybe off season where you might be able to get a better deal. Just kind of little techniques like that. But it is a little tough when you work for a company where you're not able to do that. So you've got to make it up in other ways, I guess. I tell you, the other thing too is keeping the team involved with your decision process, and the kind of feedback that you're getting from your boss on some of the venues, some of the things that you're thinking about doing, so that they understand what you're going through. And I think transparency is really important when planning a meeting, that they understand, hey, he tried or she tried, and at least they try. At least they tried to get a nice place, and this is our reality, right? So
I think that's a great point. I didn't even think about that.
They see the budget you're up against, and they're like, oh wow, okay, this is what I have to work with. And they see that. It gives people who have never planned a meeting. I love to give them opportunities to do it. My team, they've never done it. Great, let's get you the experience to do it. And all of a sudden they're like, wow, there's a lot that goes into this. Yes, there is a lot of details.
I've even gone so far as to limit the amount of distance for the majority of people. So like if you could save on flights, but and make it up on the hotel thing, but you do have to present a whole picture sometimes, right? To convince your boss that, okay, from a financial standpoint, it does make sense. Or I've had to slim down my meeting from 2 days to 1 day and do it at a nice place. And so that's another option too.
That's a great point. One technique and I think it's important too, just the theme of having your people involved, right? Because selfishly, there is a lot of work that's done, and why not leverage some of your team to help you with some of that workload, right? And it was one of my team members recommended, because we were up against a budget constraint as well. And I never thought about this till my employee mentioned it to me, that what I ended up doing was I actually got, instead of getting a conference room or a meeting room, I got a suite, which was a little bit more than the regular hotel room. However, it was big enough where we had our team meeting there. I mean, obviously there's certain stipulations, right? You have to have like a door that separates the bedroom from the other area, but it actually worked out very well. And in the long run, it was a lot less expensive than going through the entire meeting room process. So another thought out there too, depending on how big your team is, obviously.
And COVID restrictions.
And COVID has made meeting budget
I
planning
know.
very, very difficult, because I've had a few meetings during COVID. We're allowed to. You had to have someone serving food. That was 150. Every time you turned around, it was something. And so I'm just glad now. It seems like, okay, I feel like I'm gonna have much more budget now.
Yeah, because everything had to be prepackaged, the box lunch and everything was, without the buffet, to your point. So that does increase your cost tremendously.
Mhm.
I have to just share a quick story. So that meeting I was referencing was at the W, where I had a suite in Hoboken. My team was all district managers, of which all 5 were females. So Tracy, you'll appreciate this scenario. And we were trying to put tape or a poster on the wall. We didn't have tape. And so somebody called down and said, hey, can we have some tape? And so they brought it up, and somebody knocked on the door, and I went, and I opened up the door, and they handed me the tape dispenser. I'm like, you're kidding me. I'm like, I can't walk in there with this tape dispenser. It was a tape dispenser. It was a stiletto heel as a tape dispenser. I'm like, seriously? Like, how, first of all, how creepy would that look? Me walking in with a stiletto heel tape dispenser. So, yeah.
And that group wouldn't give you any crap at all.
No.
I was
not
gonna,
at
they
all.
set you up on that one, Rob.
They
They
probably
specifically
did.
ordered that. You
They
know, I
probably
think
did.
that team.
Actually, as I
Yeah.
think about it, they probably did actually. But anyway, yeah. Sorry, I digress. All right. Any other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
How about this one? So, and again, this is just coming off. We had our national meeting last week. This is my first time with this new organization. It's the first time they had a meeting in 2 years. So the majority of the team had never met each other. Like my team, especially, most of the people had never met each other. So they did a 3-day meeting. Monday was a travel day. And I know this is a little outside. We're talking about regional meetings, but I guess the point I want to get to is schedule, right? Content that you pack into whatever the amount of time you decide to have the meeting. And we talked about this, you know, the month going into the national meeting, trying to have the right amount of content, and it was too much. And by the end of the day, everyone is just like shot, and scheduling in some downtime to the meeting. I don't know. What are your guys' thoughts about that? And how does that play out in your different organizations? And do you think that's an important thing? I mean, you know, obviously want to maximize all the time there, but you also don't want to, you know, people going home from the meeting like in a body bag being exhausted.
It's so important. And I think it really, a national sales meeting, those are more of the challenges because there's so much content from marketing, home office, and you have so many more things. I think in a national sales meeting, whereas a division meeting, like one that I'm, you know, organizing or helping to plan in June, you have more control and that time to give everybody a break, because you have to have a mental break in order to really, you know, be productive. And if we are just so scheduled and that in the day you're so wiped, that's not good for anybody. So I think that you have to incorporate break time and time to refresh. So important.
Good seeing you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Great
Have a great
discussion.
weekend.
Guys,
See you guys.
great to see you.
Thanks. Bye.
Talk to you guys soon. Bye.